effective way to settle your legal disputes. Who better to sponsor the umpires
than me? Steve Ripley, right? Gary Darling at first. The Jim Palmer lookalike. Mike Winters at second. Larry Poncini at third base.
So he's probably waiting for his movie contract then. Mike Winters. And Rick Reed will be the pitcher for the Mets. He and Steve Trachsel, who will start for the Cubs tonight, hooked up at Wrigley Field last week. It was not a good outing for Reed, as the Cubs would eventually win that game 8-7. And let's see about the Chicago Cubs lineup tonight that will face Rick Reed. Cubs have Brant Brown playing center field and leading off. Mickey Morandini, the former Philly, batting second at second base. Sammy Sosa in right field batting third. Mark Grace in the cleanup spot. He's at first. Henry Rodriguez off to a great start for the Cubs. In left, Jeff Blauser, the ex-Brave, at shortstop. Kevin Ory at third. Scott Service behind the plate. And Steve Trachsel on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. Reed went 3 2/3 against Chicago at Wrigley Field last week. Gave up 10 hits and 7 runs. The Mets fell behind in that game 7-0, but made it close, lost 8-7. Ray Ordonez wound up leaving the tying run on third with 2 out in the 9th.
Well, the Mets have the ability to come back. They've proved that. They're never out of a ball game.
A lot of times mindsets like that don't carry over from year to year. I mean, that was a specialty of this club last year. For some reason, though, it has this season.
Well, I think that's Bobby Valentine has a lot to do with that. I think he's got their attention. He got their attention last spring training 2 years ago when I was there, and it's carried over this spring and when I was down there. This is a team that listens and wants to learn.
All right, Keith, let's take a look at the defense that Bobby has tonight.
Okay, today you got Matt Franco's going to get a start at third base. We're going to go to Ray Ordonez, who's been playing great shortstop. Baerga is at second base after a day off. John Olerud at first. Tim Spire gets the catching duties. Spear, and Bernard Gilkey, Brian McRae, Butch Husky in the outfield.
And the first pitch from Reed is a breaking ball down low. Brant Brown has been red hot. He has a 6-game hitting streak, 9 hits in his last 17 times at bat. He's playing center field because the former Met Lance Johnson is still out with a hip flexor. And that ball hit in the air to short right field. The Huskies looking for it. Look how far out Baerga goes. So 1 out, and Baerga helped bail Butch Husky out.
Yeah, it looked like Butch didn't pick it up in the light air here. We got daylight saving time again now. So this early part of the game, it can be tough. There's some high clouds up there.
So 1 out, Mickey Morandini will be next. That's part of the landscape here at Shea Stadium. Boy, things went smoothly today.
They did go smoothly. We got the game over in quick fashion, basically under 3 hours. An American League game under 3 hours is a godsend anywhere. So Pete Flynn said they got the ground crew, got the field ready in time.
Morandini goes after the first pitch, 0-1.
And there was a little bit of worry because of the rain earlier in the day, and I asked Pete before the game if there was any trouble with the field getting it ready, and he said no, there was no problem. The field handled it well. It was just a matter they had to get it ready in time for the Mets to take batting practice,
which they did on time. 0-1 to Morandini. And off speed, 0-2. Of course, you had Pete Flynn's ear in a special way when you were here. Everything around first base had to be just right.
Well, I remember when Howard Johnson complained about the infield at third base.
He didn't like that, huh?
And you never do that. And I could never complain about first base. I got very few bad hops at first base.
Just off the outer edge, 1 and 2. Of course, if you ever did have a problem there, you just blame it on Hojo.
No, or Hojo would blame it on someone else.
Say, hey, Pete, Hojo says there's a problem in the infield. Third start of the year for Reed. He was strong against Pittsburgh in his first one. And the breaking ball looped towards the line, but that'll carry to the seats.
I always liked Rick Reed stuff. 2 springs ago when he came down as a former Scab, and all the hard feelings some of the players had towards the Scabs. I was impressed with him more than anybody in the pitching staff that spring, and it wasn't a surprise to me that he had the kind of year that he had last year. And he's not afraid to throw the fastball. That's what I like. He likes to throw inside.
Earned him a new 2-year contract, and that's in the dirt, 2 and 2. Do you remember facing him when he was with Pittsburgh and he shut you out through 8 innings?
And you talked to me about that earlier. I just don't recall. I vaguely remember. I couldn't tell you what he had or what he threw, but evidently you are the man.
I just remember your teammates. Your teammates weren't terribly impressed, as I remember the conversation the next day. inside 3-2. It was one of his first starts coming up from AAA. Sitting on the bench next to Lenny Dykstra at Wrigley Field the next day. I said, well, what'd you think of Reed last night? He said, man, I forgot what AAA pitching was like.
Yeah, after he threw, what, a 3-hitter at us?
Yeah, over 8 innings, yeah. Inside, ball 4. And right there, that's almost an aberration for Rick Reed. He walked so few, but he lost Morandini after being ahead 1-2.
Our club back then, too, in the 80s, if any right-hander to throw a 3-hitter, a 3-hitter at us, or let alone a shutout at us, with all of our left-hand power hitters, it was quite an accomplishment. Right-handers did not like the faces.
Now, what about the mound today, too? I mean, the mound was used by different sets of pitchers in the first game of this day-night. Doubleheaders used to be routine. I wonder if any of the pitchers will have trouble getting comfortable.
Well, I think actually, Howie, it's just like playing a doubleheader.
Sammy Sosa goes after the first pitch. It's got double play written all over it. 6-4 to 3, and the Cubs are retired in the first. So no runs, no hits. Reed walked someone. That's almost a head.
Want to see Les Mis?
Well, I want to see Phantom.
Last of the first at Shea Stadium. The Cubs did not score against Rick Reed, and so now the Mets will go after Steve Trachsel, making his 3rd start of the year. And here's the Mets lineup, and look at that oddity. Ray Ordonez, who's been hot, batting in the leadoff spot. Matt Franco will bat 2nd, Bernard Gilkey 3rd, and John Olerud clean up. Gilkey continues to swing a hot bat, as does Olerud. Butch Husky in right, Brian McRae in center, Carlos Baerga at 2nd base, with Tim Spear catching Rick Reed. Trachsel just 1-8 on the road last year, and he'd been a pretty good pitcher away from Wrigley Field his first few seasons with the Cubs, but last year had all kinds of nightmares away from Chicago. Ordonez, with a 10-game hitting streak, takes a fastball at the knees.
Well, Trachsel's not a real hard thrower. He's slightly below average velocity. Has a good breaking ball, and of course has a very good split finger, which is the pitch of the 90s, the hitter's nightmare.
And the breaking ball, 1-1.
That's made a lot of good pitchers out of average pitchers in the past, with the average breaking ball, average fastball. If they can throw a split finger, it's just such a weapon against a hitter. It was a pitch I wish had never came into our vocabulary.
There it is, and it's 1-2 to Ordonez. It's the lateness of the break that makes it so hard to lay off, right?
The lateness of the break and the fact that it comes in looking like a fastball. It has no identification like a breaking ball or a knuckleball or a screwball. So it looks like a fastball, and at the last minute, the bottom drops out.
1-2 to Ordonez. There it is again, and the count even.
Here you see the scouting report. Strong split finger, as I said. Everything likes to throw away. An average fastball at best, and fairly straight. Tends to get hurt a lot by right-hand hitters instead of the left-handers. He has a much better on base or batting average against the. Oh, forgive me here. Left-hand hitters have better success, worse success off him. The right-handers are the one that seem to handle him better. I talked to Ed Lynch earlier in the game. It's because his split finger goes straight down. He can't get it to break away or break into a hitter. It stays on a straight down break. If he gets it over the middle, it's a nice pitch to hit for the right-hand hitters.
Well, it's 3-2 now to Ordonez. Gave him a fastball, and he loops it to right. Sosa towards the line, but it drops in. And Ordonez has an 11-game hitting streak. Well, the Mets get the leadoff man on here in the first inning. Let's see what's doing defensively for the Chicago Cubs behind Trachsel.
Okay, we've got Kevin Ory at 3rd, the newly acquired Jeff Blauser at shortstop, Mickey Morandini, also an acquisition in the offseason, at 2nd, Mark Grace at 1st, of course. Scott Service is catching. Another acquisition, Henry Rodriguez in left, Brant Brown in center, Sammy Sosa in right, and on the mound, Steve Trachsel, of course.
Matt Franco will be the batter for the Mets. He's making his first start at 3rd base this year, his 3rd start overall.
The Cubs made a lot of moves in the offseason to improve their ball club. They went into the free agent market, and then they spent some money. They're trying to bring a winner to Wrigley Field.
Well, for a couple of years, the plan in Chicago had been to try to build from within. Then last year, they got off to that disastrous 0-14 start, and Jim Riggleman and Ed Lynch were able to convince Andy MacPhail to convince the Tribune Company to come up with some cabbage. And they say there's more where that came from if the Cubs are in contention later in the year. 1-1 now to Matt Franco.
Well, they're in the one division in the National League, I think, that is pretty well bunched and will probably be the most competitive division to be won. I think the Cardinals have the best team right now, but it's going to be a very competitive division.
National League Central pretty much a free-for-all.
I'd be curious to see if Bobby wants to start a little hit and run here, 1-1.
Look at Grace's heel there. He's almost in foul territory.
Well, no, he's not now. We'll get into that later.
That's been done before.
Yes, the old Whitey Herzog move.
Of course, Grace is wearing that uniform number 17, not because of Felix Millan or any other former Met, but because of my partner here.
Well, I just think when players start coming up to you and saying that they're wearing your number, it means you're getting old. So I don't know if that's a good thing.
1-2. Matt Franco excelled so much in a pinch hitting role last year. Struggled a little bit so far the early part of the season as a pinch hitter. Hasn't seemed to be as aggressive a hitter as he was last year, even coming off the bench. Another thing, somehow successful pinch hitting that seems tough to carry over from year to year.
Well, it's the toughest job in baseball, being the pinch hitter. We all know that.
1-2 to Franco, line to third, and Ori makes the grab. Ordonez back to first, one man away.
That's actually an excellent piece of hitting. You can see in the replay here, it's not really a great angle, but how he stays level on the outside pitch. I mean, that's just hit him where they ain't, as they say. That's just bad luck. But as a hitter, if you do that, here you see it again. Fastball low and away. That's just good hitting up at the plate, waiting the ball come to you. Like a left-hander. He's a good hitter. He's always impressed me with his bat.
So 1 on, 1 out, and Bernard Gilkey, who's been hot, although not during his career, against Steve Trachsel. No score in the first. Slowly hit. Ori has one play. It's to first. And on to second goes Ordonez, but now there are 2 out.
Batting fourth, number 5, first baseman John.
So 2 out. John Olerud will be the batter. How much, if any, of yourself do you see in Olerud? I mean, I would think that for the average fan who remembered your career and who watches Olerud now, you can see some similarities.
Well, we have the same kind of swing. He's a little more fluid than me, I think. I was a little more jerky when I made contact. He's like very fluid, one motion type and one speed type swinger. Well, actually, curiously here with the open base, with him red hot and Butch Husky struggling, I wonder if he'll be careful pitching to him.
Well,
with the open base, even though you hate to see it in the first inning, it's early in the game. If as a manager, I guess, with the red hot Olerud here, and like I said, with Butch behind him, you know, he'll probably pitch a little bit very, very carefully to him.
First pitch was a breaking ball. Would you expect anything even resembling a fastball near the plate?
Well, I'll tell you what, I would be looking fastball, and if he did give me one, I'd be all over it. So he's throwing him a curveball in the dirt, bad, a changeup away, a splitter away. Now he's behind 2-0. I'd be very surprised. I mean, 2-0, if he does a fastball now, I would be quite shocked.
Olerud has handled Trachsel. Scott Service, the catcher, just peered into the Cubs dugout, almost in anticipation of being given the signal to walk Olerud, but they will continue to pitch to him. 2-0.
Well, it's a lot of fingers down there. He's not going to throw a fastball. He didn't put number 1 down. There's another change. The splitter that he got up. So I think we're going to see a basic pitch around here, and they're going to go after Butch, which is important. You have someone hitting behind you. I mean, you can't be hot all year round. Butch is traditionally a slow starter. You can't be hot every game, and this is a situation right now. You got a veteran hitter up there. He knows what he's doing. You got to be patient and only take what the pitcher gives you.
So 3-0 to Olerud. Will he go away with a fastball? The last indicator of the sequence. He did, but it's ball 4. So as unintentional and intentional walk or vice versa as you'll ever see.
Well, that sequence of pitches right there, he's just hoping that John would go after a bad pitch in the dirt. If he gets ahead, then he can go after him. If he falls behind, he's just going to give him the pass.
Some pitchers hated that. I remember Seaver would always say, if we're content to put the guy on, let's just put him on and cut our losses.
That's a point. But does a pitcher lose his rhythm pitching around you want your pitcher to be in sync and throwing his pitches to certain spots. So there's something to be said about that. And coming from a guy like Seaver, it gives it a little more import.
So 2 on and 2 out, and Husky takes outside, ball 1. Jim Cott, another former, he played with you on that St. Louis team, won the World Series.
Absolutely.
He also hated that pitch around. There's a fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike to Husky.
It just seems like the same pattern like I saw in spring training when the 2 games I did in spring training. They seem to be pitching Butch outside. He tends to want to fly his front shoulder out. And as a hitter, if they keep throwing you out there, sooner or later you got to start looking in that area.
Outfield deep and straight away, line to right, a base hit for Husky. Here comes Ordonez. Here's Sosa's throw. Out at the plate. Sammy Sosa, who has a gun, displays it, and Ordonez is cut down. So the Mets don't score. There were 2 hits, a walk, and 2 left. This is one of the strongest throwing arms in baseball, and it keeps the game scoreless.
I'd like a wireless phone.
Come here, free phone.
TIXX.
Show up at Jay.
We head to the 2nd inning, and Keith, because of the man on the left there, we're still scoreless.
Well, I think the key here, we all know he's got a great arm. And you can't see it on this one, but the next one will show. It shows how hard he charged the ball to cut down the valuable seconds, which has enabled him to throw out Ray at the plate. The throw is perfect, 1 hop, hit the cutoff man, and most important, so it freezes the runners.
0-1 to Mark Grace.
And here's the other angle. You see him charging hard, doing everything properly, even 2 hands, which you'd like to see. And the ball could have been cut off. Perfect 1 hop. Those are the things that win or lose your ball games.
Breaking ball to Grace, 0-2. Grace has been a hot hitter also. And you see that patch on the sleeve of Sammy Sosa and all the Cubs in tribute to the late Harry Carey. Reed got off the mound in a hurry, and Mark Grace retired, 1 out.
That's how I like Rick Reed on the mound.
Number 40, left fielder,
he did not
Henry
waste a pitch.
Rodriguez.
He called a little cut fastball inside corner, and hitters have 0-2 counts on them, or 1-2 counts. The pitcher has the definite advantage over the hitter, and they're going to bear down more and cover more plate. They're going to be more vulnerable inside. And I think when you're 0-2 and you waste 2 pitches, I think you're making the biggest mistake in the world. 2-2 equals the count out. So that's why I liked him in spring training. He's not afraid to throw inside, and he's aggressive when he's ahead in the count.
Henry Rodriguez, the former Montreal Expo, takes a strike. Rodriguez has hit 5 home runs so far. He also had a day in Montreal, whence he came when he went 5 for 5. And he fouls it back, and he also did some damage last week, Keith, to Rick Reed.
Here's the home run in Wrigley. I'd like to know which way the wind was blowing here. Fastball up and away. Probably wanted to get it down. Pays the price. He's pitched him ironically. That's an outside fastball. He took him deep. He's thrown his first 2 pitches inside. Catcher setting up in again. So that's 3 straight pitches now that they wanted to throw inside. He didn't get that one there, but that doesn't matter. The catcher set up inside. So they're going to pitch Henry inside this series.
We have caught him peeking before. Our cameras nailed him last year. Outside 2-2, and Henry was a member of the Montreal Expos. Todd Hundley was behind the plate. The guys were in the room after the game watching that tape, making mental note that they had a peeker.
Well, nothing wrong with peeking in certain situations. I was known to peek on occasion. Setting up inside again. There you go.
And he nails him on the inside corner. First strikeout for Reed.
So basically in that sequence, he'd thrown 3 straight pitches inside, the changeup away, and then came right back in and locked him up. That's just good pitching. And he got the call too. It looked like it might have been a little bit inside.
But Reed gets his first strikeout. He's walked one, and now with 2 out and nobody on, Jeff Blauser will be next. No score, 2 out on the second, and a good hook, 0-1.
It's another great acquisition for the Cubs here. And if you're a Cub fan, you got to be real tickled about this team.
We were in there last week, and they were talking Bennett in Chicago after a week. 1-1 to Blauser. It's a good situation for him too, because now Blauser is playing in a city, in a situation where he's totally appreciated. He got lost in that mix in Atlanta, and the fans were on him because of his defensive problems.
Agreed.
Ordonez, who knows nothing of defensive problems, throws out Blauser, and the Cubs go in order. So Rick Reed gets the Cubs 1-2-3, middle of the second here at Shea. We are scoreless. Baerga and Tim Spear for New York against Steve Trachsel. And the first pitch to McRae smacked straight back. Ryan McRae was in demand before the game, having played in Chicago, not for the White Sox, but for the Cubs, but having been able to speak with some expertise on relations between the White Sox and the Cubs, comparing him to the Mets and the Yankees here. And he was pretty adamant, Keith, about the fact that there would have been no sense of cooperation whatsoever. The situation which happened here in New York took place in Chicago.
Well, I don't know what goes on in Chicago. All I know, it's a Cub town. It's not a White Sox town. I wonder if the Tribune has anything to do with that.
Hit deep to center field by McRae. Grant Brown hits it away for the first out.
They're real high on this kid, Grant Brown. I talked to Ed Lynch before the game. He's 27 years old. They say he can run, he can throw. He's good defensive outfielder. Hits with power. They really think that this is the year for him to step out and become the player that they think he can become.
Ed Lynch, of course, the former Mets pitcher, now in his 4th year as the general manager of the Chicago Cubs. And here's Carlos Baerga for the 2nd straight April, struggling at the plate. Takes a fastball away, 1-0. Boy, it's funny, Keith. Here's a guy, Baerga, who's not yet 30 years old. And last year at this time, people were wondering about his bat speed. You just normally don't hear that about guys who are 28, 29 years old.
Well, I think that I wonder sometimes, and Carlos had a bad first half last year and really came on strong. So there's a lot of mental that goes on to it. I just wonder sometimes, I saw in spring training he wasn't really rotating his hips freely. And I wonder if it's just something left over or a bad habit he got into when he tore that stomach muscle, abdominal muscle. Because that's a terrible injury to get if you're a hitter. And I just wonder if he got into a bad habit, or it's tight, or unconsciously he's doing something. I talked to the hitting coach before the game, and they're trying to get his rotation back in his hips.
He's down on strikes there, 2 men away.
Here it is from above. Carlos swinging here. His open stance, as you can see, but he's striding in. See his back foot come up there. I think sometimes if you're so worried inside and you're worrying into your weakness and you're giving up your strength. Lou Brock told me that when I was very young, and I was always worried inside. I think that they've been establishing inside on Carlos early and then going away. And, you just, like Lou said, what are you looking into your weakness for? Where's your strength? I go, well, I like the ball away. Why are you looking into your weakness? It made perfect sense to me, and it really helped turn my career around.
Tim Spear takes inside, 2-0. So Baerga's struggles continue. This series concludes tomorrow afternoon. It's one of the reasons that Edgardo Alfonso's not in the Met lineup tonight, as Spear fouls at bat 2-1. Robbie Valentine, as he did all last year, is committed to utilizing everybody on his roster as regularly as possible. And so Alfonso, with a day game tomorrow, gets tonight off, and he'll be at third base tomorrow afternoon.
Well, I think you've got to keep all 24, 25 players active and feel a part of the club. Bobby does it the most that I've ever seen any manager, but think if you get people to think that they're a part of the ball club, you're not the 25th man on the roster. You're contributing. That keeps the morale up.
So Trachsel nicks Tim Spear with 2 out, and the Mets have a base runner. Let's take a listen here. Do you hear him get plunked?
Yes, you do. And absolutely. And more importantly, now you've got the pitcher up in the next inning. You have the leadoff man in the order up. So critical, I think.
Hit deep to left field. Rodriguez for a look. That's a goal. Rick Reed makes it 2-0 New York.
Should I take that back?
Well, they used a designated hitter here this afternoon. That's what you can do with your designated hitter. This time the apple, the home run apple, was allowed to come all the way up and go full cycle. Darryl Strawberry hit one earlier today for the Yankees, and that Met home run apple came halfway up before the red phone rang. So now it's Ordonez, and Kevin Orie throws him out. The side retired, but the second home run of Rick Reed's career, the first off of Pete Sherrick of Cincinnati last year, makes it 2-0 New York.
1:30 on Fox Sports New York.
The former site of the World's Fair, 1964, that's the Unisphere, and Rick Reed didn't hit one quite that far, but certainly enough to give the Mets a 2-0 lead over the Cubs here at Shea Stadium. Howie Rose, Keith Hernandez, Fran Healy, Matt Lachlan all on hand tonight, as the Mets get some offense from a rather unlikely source, and don't think he's not stewing about it.
No, I think that he would like to have that pitch back.
So Rick Reed puts 2 runs in his pocket and faces the bottom of the Cubs order here in the third. Kevin Orie, Scott Service, and Steve Trachsel. And a fastball just below the knees. Orie got off to a real good start in his second major league season, went 7 for his first 16, but he's been slumping since. The average down now to 260. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Good all-around player, good defensive player, good arm. They're hoping that he is the third baseman there for years to come.
That's the slump he's been in lately after the strong start. Got to help him too now, Keith, to have so many more veteran players around him.
Sure. He's also hitting in that 7th spot too, which has got the 8th hitter protecting him. To me, I always felt the 7th position in the order was always the most difficult position to hit in, because you usually had a weak hitting 8th guy behind you. To me, Ray Knight was the best 7th hitter I ever played with here in New York. He was a veteran line drive hitter. You got to be disciplined in that order, and that spot in the order, because you've got an 8th hitter behind you and you can be pitched around, and it takes a veteran with a good eye, good line drive hitter, and Ray was the best 7th hitter I ever played with.
You hit down there early in your career with St. Louis?
Early when I first broke in, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
3-1 to Orie, and then the count full. As a young player, what wouldn't you have liked about it? Just the fact that you had to be so disciplined?
Well, not really. Didn't think that far ahead. I was just glad to be in the lineup that day. So I'll hit anywhere. Hit me 8th. I was just glad I was playing. But naturally, you would be much nicer to have Ted Simmons hitting behind you, as opposed to Ozzie Smith back in those days when Ozzie was hitting .215 before he became the hitter he became.
And the fastball gets Orie. Second strikeout for Rick Reed, so he did it there with his arm, and he's done it already with his bat.
Well, here's the replay here. It's a fastball. He wanted to go away. You see the catcher, he got it right down the middle, belt high, and that is a nice swing. Look at that level swing. So he can hit.
There's a home run trot. He gets to first base, and now he does it like he's used to it.
Well, why not? Enjoy it. It's a line drive, too.
Scott Service, the Cubs catcher, takes inside for a ball.
Also, Rick Reed, another strikeout on an inside corner fastball to Kevin Ory. He knows how to pitch. He's just an aggressive pitcher. I really, really like him. I can't say enough praise for him.
And he'll get a lot of those ground balls. Hopes for better results in the future. Baerga boots it. The Cubs have a one-out base runner.
Well, just a ground ball the right side of the infield. Carlos just didn't get there. And here it is again. Just didn't get it. Closed his glove too quick on it. Should have made the play.
And it's an error on Baerga, who heard it from the fans. Becoming a little impatient with Carlos's struggles.
Well, Carlos is such a positive influence on the team. We need him to be productive on his team. He's such a positive influence. It's such a, I think, one of the leaders in the club.
They probably have told Trachsel a bunt, but don't you think he'd love to swing the bat now after giving up the home run to Reed?
Well, I think he'll want to just bunt and get him over. Hopefully we can get they can get a base hit and make it 2-1. That's got to be his philosophy. As you see, he's not that good of a, hasn't had great success. 170 lifetime batting average.
Did do some damage last week for the Cubs against the Mets. Two balls, no strikes to Trachsel. And the signs being flashed by Tom Gamboa, the third base coach, for manager Jim Riggleman. So 2-0 to the opposing pitcher with 1 out and 1 on here in the third. And he takes a full swing on 2-0.
Now here's a situation now. They gave him a 2-0 hit sign, and that's fine and dandy. I would, and he may let him hit again, but I tell you what, 95% of the time he's going to be bunting. Now they gave him a 2-0 hit sign. I'd like to see Franco come in a little more and be more aggressive, be in on the grass. You always don't want to play safety first, second best. I always felt that if you got the guy at second, that was the win situation. If you get the guy at first base, it's second best. The runner's in scoring position. You failed defensively. So he should be playing in a lot closer now.
Right now, Franco is even with the bag.
John over at first base is very aggressive in his charge.
Baerga sneaking in behind the runner, and the throw goes down the right field line. Now the first base coach is looking to get an interference call, and so is the manager Jim Riggleman, pardon me, Dan Radisson, talking about it with Gary Darling. Now Baerga's got a right to the ball.
Right, there's no interference there. The ball almost hit the runner in the head. And he did not get in front of him in his path back to the base. He was behind him. You see the aggressive charge by Olerud, the throw. He is not preventing him from getting back to the bag. And here's the play again. A whole look at the infield, how they're charging. Now they're trying to set up the pickoff here, so they're going to be coming in harder because they know it's going to be a pitch out.
Now it's a 3-1, and Trachsel gets the bunt down, a good one. And Olerud's play is to first, so the sacrifice works. 2 men away, and Brant Brown will be the batter with service in scoring position.
Center fielder Brant Brown.
So Reed fell behind the opposing pitcher after homering off of Trachsel. He would have been out of the inning altogether. Of course, you don't know how the at-bat to Trachsel would have played out after the error on Baerga, which puts Service aboard. And Brown, a hot hitter, popped out his first time up to the second baseman, Baerga.
He's a big, strong kid.
Line drive right to Baerga. So, despite Baerga's error, the Cubs don't score. Rick Reed is not allowed a hit through the first 3 innings. Middle of the third. By the new Dodge, it's about change. And we go to the last of the third inning here at Shea Stadium with New York leading 2-0. Rick Reed's home run with 2 out in the second inning, accounting for the runs. And the Mets will send Matt Franco, Bernard Gilkey, and John Olerud up to face Steve Trachsel. Day game tomorrow. Dave Malicki against Kevin Tampany, and then the Mets will go to Cincinnati for the weekend. As the first pitch to Franco breaks outside for a ball. Matt line to Kevin Ory at third, his first time up.
Started him off with an outside corner breaking ball, staying away from him. So this is the situation as a hitter. He throws you a breaking ball for ball one, a split finger for ball two. You're 2-0. He hasn't got both his off breaking ball pitches over. So you've got it's your pitch to hit. So he's looking for a fastball to really wear out.
Well, the only sign is the fastball away. That's where it is, and it catches the outside corner, or did it just cut across the knees?
I thought it was low, but I guess they're entitled to miss a few calls once in a while. Still 2-1. This is your pitch to hit. You're in the same situation.
And again, the fastball, good spot from Trachsel.
You know, Matt Franco told me in batting practice he's been getting some bad calls. Those last two pitches I thought were both low. So even if you go 50-50 on them, you're 3-1 instead of 2-2.
He hits that one hard. Sosa plays it on a hop. So Franco's hit it hard twice. First time up, he lined out, and now he's got himself a leadoff single here in the third. 4 hits for New York.
And here's a view of the swing here. It's a great angle. He's a very level swinger. I never liked letting go with the one hand like that, but he makes it work. He stays level. He's a line drive hitter.
Tom Robson, the hitting coach, is a pretty big proponent of that leg kick.
I agree. It generates some. It's all rhythm. Yeah, I don't. If you want to use it, fine. I mean, Darrell had a big leg kick, Melot, whatever works for you.
So now it's Gilkey as Franco measures his lead in the pitch on the outside corner.
Well, this is one guy right here too who's just got to pick up the slack here, and he's done a great job so far this year. Another great influence on the team, a good person in the clubhouse, hard worker, professional.
You see Grace's leg there. That's all legal. He's in fair territory. 0-2 to Gilkey. Now, how did you come about the idea, which Whitey Herzog eventually put the kibosh on, to swing that left foot around to straddle the foul line?
I didn't really
on hold situations.
I was in foul territory, right? My back, my plant foot. I was always taught that way by my father as a kid, and other first basemen did it. It was some obscure rule that
only the catcher
Whitey
can
found,
be in
only
foul
the catcher
territory.
in foul territory. I always thought every first baseman did it. So when they came out and said that, I knew why Whitey was doing it, because they had that team that relied on stealing bases. It forced me to get more into fair territory, and it made my tag longer to get to the bag, as opposed to if my front foot was on the front of the bag, I was able to come down for a quick tag.
So with that left foot of his behind the foul line, you're able to get the bag and the glove closer together. This could be 2, 6, 4, but that's all. 1 out, and they'll exchange Franco for Gilkey.
Tell you what, the second, if Morandini had tried to complete that double play, he would have had to. Sliding was nowhere near him. It's not like he's going to get taken out here. He's not even close to him. I guess he thought that Bernard was a fast enough runner to beat it, but I think he might have had a chance for 2. You just got to try it.
So with 1 out, John Olerud, who drew a walk his first time up in a situation where a runner was at second, and Trachsel showed no interest whatsoever in giving Olerud anything to hit. That's leading 2-0. 1 man out here in the third. Cubs do not have a hit. The Mets have 4. Cubs looking for 2 on the infield as Gilkey measures his lead. And it's hit in the air. Henry Rodriguez. And there are 2 out. So Olerud does some first ball hitting. And now it'll be up to Husky. Make sure to stay with us tomorrow on Fox Sports New York. We'll have the final game of this 3-game series, beginning with Mets game time at 1. Dave Malicki faces Kevin Tampany, and they'll throw the first pitch about 1:40 or so tomorrow afternoon. Big crowd expected here at Shea Stadium on Kids Opening Day. Kids will get in for $1 tomorrow in the upper deck. With or without the cameras. That's, I'll tell you what, when I used to bring a camera to the ballpark, they didn't have lenses like that. 0-1. I mean, that's a serious camera that guy's got.
Nor could we afford it.
Not even, I could barely afford to get the bus fare back in those days. Probably hung out a candlestick as a kid, huh?
I hung out there and froze. But it was Willie Mays and McCovey and Juan Marichal and Gaylord Perry and Jim Ray Hart. That was a great team to grow up and watch play.
0-1 to Husky, and now he's out in front, so it's no balls, 2 strikes.
Well, they're continuing to stay away from Butch. In his last at bat, he stayed in and went the other way. Here's the pitch again. It's like a little bit out in front. I think he threw him a high splitter there.
So advantage Trachsel with 2 out.
There's Butch's hot zone, I guess. Hit zone, hot zone. I call it hot zone. He likes the ball middle, belt high, and up. Thus, why do they pitch him away? Makes perfect sense. High ball hitter. Typical right-hand power hitter.
Service got a piece of it, but Gilkey winds up in scoring position. So the splitter costs Trachsel a base. 0-2 waste pitch, and it was more than he bargained for.
Well, he didn't want to get it in the dirt. He just wanted to see if the fish were biting here, and he just didn't. Threw it too hard. It's not that easy. It looks easy. It's just not that easy. He probably ideally wanted to start that around mid-thigh and have it break in the dirt. Overthrew it.
Remember, it was Husky's single with a runner on second in the first that wound up resulting in Ordonez being thrown out at the plate to end the inning. Now it's Gilkey at second, and the pitch inside, 2-2.
So I would think now after that inside pitch, it's the first time he's thrown him anything inside of his first 2 at bats, that he would do something and go back outside again. And we're going to get the little fork. No, we can't tell here. We don't know their signs.
Figured you'd have had him by the 3rd inning.
I would have loved to have had him. Maybe I'll get him. That was a split finger away, by the way. And of course, did not have, kind of just had a swing just to hang in there.
How long would it take him? You were studying the sequence. I mean, obviously with a guy on second, it changes and all that, but you had the option of sitting home and just watching the catcher all 9 innings. You think you'd have him by the end of the game?
Well, that's what the Cubs did in '84. They have someone in the clubhouse watching the game on TV that's watching all the signs as they come out from the television set.
And Husky just rolls it to Grace. It's a foot race, but Grace wins it. So no runs, a hit. Fran Healy will join Keith Hernandez for the next 3 innings. Still 2-0, New York.
Hey, don't work too late, kid. Thanks.
Slow-crafted Sam Adams. All in due time.
Where's technology going? Photonics, pharmaceuticals, biotech. They're coming to Connecticut to grow. Software companies here are growing faster than in Silicon Valley itself. Since January of '96, more than 450 high-tech firms were launched from here in Connecticut, capitalizing on some of the most highly skilled workers in the world. Call us and see how much power we can put behind your business.
We'd like to clear the air about compact sport utility vehicles. Ford Explorer is America's sales leader, has been for the past 6 years. It has an available V8 engine, something Pathfinder and 4Runner don't even offer. In fact, it beats them both in room and comfort as well. Even has more towing capacity than Cherokee. The '98 Ford Explorer, clearly the perfect choice. See your tri-state quality Ford dealer, where there's more to afford. Now with low 1.9% financing, you'll feel even more comfortable in the '98 Ford Explorer.
Q104, the 10 in a row classic rock station. 10 in a row or $10,000. Q104.
New York Mets baseball is brought to you in part by your tri-state GMC dealers. Welcome back to Shea Stadium. It was a big day here. Yankee fans and Met fans sitting next to each other for a double dip.
It's like the truce in Ireland right now.
I'm sure it's going to go on forever as the first pitch to Mickey Morandini. He takes it outside, ball one. Morandini, 7 years with the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, nice. Another one of the great acquisitions for this club. They're getting a veteran leadership. They had to replace Sandberg retired. They had to get a replacement for him.
As Morandini fouls it off. So it's 1-1 on the Cubs second baseman, who's batting .244. We have a 2-0 ball game. The Cubs trailing the Mets. Rick Reed, the star so far, pitching a fine ball game, has yet to allow a Cub base hit, and he's hit a 2-run home run in this game. Morandini pops the ball up down left field line, and it's out of play. So 1-2 on Mickey Morandini. Big difference some of the Cubs people feel playing the infield in Chicago as opposed to playing the infield in other ballparks around the National League. Higher grass.
A lot higher grass. The stands are closer to the field. There's not a lot of foul territory, but still it's the same dimensions. The only difference I ever saw in Wrigley was that the grass was so high you were able to have more range in the field.
As Morandini takes inside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. I know Eddie Lynch is very high in his ball club. They've invested $20 more million this year's club, and Morandini pulls the ball down the right field line and foul.
I don't mind that. He's just Rick throws so aggressively and inside, so he turned on it. He's thrown him 2 straight fastballs away. Now it could be maybe set him up for something on off-speed pitching on the outer half of the plate. It's a 2-2 count. I just love pitchers, and I can't say enough. Now I don't want to belabor the point, but pitchers that throw inside.
Didn't get it quite that far inside as Morandini fouls it off, so we'll do it again at 2-2. Tim Spear doing the catching tonight for the Mets. Phil Regan, the pitching coach with the Chicago Cubs, is a very big supporter of Tim Spears. He had him in winter ball and said he's a very intelligent receiver.
Well, the pitchers seem to like working with him.
Breaking ball. What a play. Ordonez, soft hands. Score at 6-3. He makes it look easy.
Well, it's just like Willie Mays when I was a kid going to the park. He'd do something in the field, and Ray Ordonez is the same way. It's just consistently day in, day out. Gives you the steady glove. That's a nice backhand. No easy play.
He's off to a good start offensively. He extended his hitting streak to 11 games tonight. As you look at Sammy Sosa. Sosa grounded into a 6-4-3 double play. Curveball right there for the strike.
Like a slider. A nice slider there. He can't put it in a better spot.
Remember back in 1992 when the Cubs made the trade with the White Sox, George Bell going to the White Sox, and everybody criticized the trade because Sammy Sosa was traded to the Cubs. I should say Cub fans criticized that trade as Sosa takes a strike. It's 0-2. Turned out to be a great trade to the Cubs.
A great trade, and also an expensive one. He's got a pretty big salary. But if you hit 50 home runs and drive in 120 runs, you're gonna demand and get that kind of cash.
Plus, he can play that outfield.
Yes, he can. He's got a great arm. And he's a hustler. He's a hustler.
Takes down low. 1-2 on Sosa. This spring, they got him to hit a lot of balls to right field, hoping it would cut down on his strikeouts. But so far, didn't get the result they desired. You can tell by that graphic. Inside to Sosa. 2-2. You know, it must be difficult, Keith, if you're a manager, to digest a lot of strikeouts from even a power hitter.
Well, if he's going to strike out, it's just how do you want to build your ball club? They've got a lot of guys that strike out in this club. Rodriguez out there strikes out a lot, but he's a power hitter. They just seem to want to get more offense. The Cubs have always been an offensive team. Their pitching has always been the problem. That pitch inside just missed there, as you can see. That's a great angle.
Full count.
He's just 2 pitches inside in a row after 3 away. Let's see what he does. He's coming back in.
3-2 pitch. Fouled off again.
And we'll replay the first inning throw. It would be a 3-0 game if it wasn't for this throw. Charged greatly. Cutoff man. 1 hop at the plate. Pitcher perfect.
He's led the league in assists. Sammy Sosa, 2 of the better throwing outfielders in this ball game tonight. Sammy Sosa with the Cubs. And left field for the Mets, Bernard Gilkey. Hard hit ball, base hit. Ordonez almost made that play. So Sosa with his first hit of the game and the first hit of the game for the Cubs off Rick Reed.
First baseman.
Well, Rick just shook his head there, if you noticed that. It was a fastball that he got over the middle. I'm sure he didn't want to get there. He's probably just happy it stayed in the park. This is a rocket.
Take a look at a chase cam replay right here.
If this ball handcuffs Ray Ordonez, and you know it's a rocket. Down the middle. Almost made the play. Need another inch, huh?
And that's the chase cam replay. As Sammy Sosa's on first base, the batter now Mark Grace, who grounded out his first time up. Changeup gets him out in front. 0-1 on Mark Grace.
Changeup in a nice spot too, sinking on the knees outside corner. Because if you're going to throw a changeup to a left-hand hitter, that's where you want it.
Grace not only a 300 hitter, but also a 300 hitter with runners in scoring position.
This was always an excuse here with the planes coming over. You got a pitcher throwing a one-hitter in a nice rhythm. The airplane comes out, overhead, you step out. I always did that as a weapon to try to break up the pitcher's rhythm. You never want to get a pitcher throwing a great game at you and let him just throw when he wants to throw.
And Reed's throwing a great game so far. 0-1 on Mark Grace. He fouls it back. So he had him out in front on the first pitch, and he had him late on the second pitch.
And he's doing a fastball there up in the strike zone. He's 0-2. He knows how to pitch. And I mean, if you can throw a hitter that's hot, particularly a left-hand line drive hitter like Mark Grace, and lead him off with a nasty changeup, that kind of sets the tone for the whole at bat. I felt, at least in the way I felt when I hit.
0-2 on Mark Grace, who hits a lot like Keith Hernandez. He fouls it off. Did you give in at all to the pitcher 0-2?
Well, it's not giving in. I would maybe choke up a little more, and I don't think that's giving in, Fran. I would go up the middle, aggressive up the middle. I'd be more vulnerable inside, but I don't think it's giving up anything to the pitcher going up the middle. Now, if some pitcher was out there that just gave me fits, then you really had to combat it mentally not to give in anything.
0-2. Fouls it off, so he changes speeds again. Of course, wearing number 17, that's going to make you feel good. He reminds a lot of people of you, Keith, not only defensively, but offensively.
Well, he's had some great years, and he's certainly on the Cubs all-time hit list now. He's moving up. He needs one more hit, I think, to go into 7th place. And Billy Herman will take over with his next base hit. He'll tie, I believe. He's just a fine player.
Time is called as the plane goes overhead. Now, Rusty Staub, a friend of ours, said that he wanted to hit with the plane overhead because the outfielders couldn't hear the sound of the ball hitting the bat.
And I agree with him, but Rusty has that kind of brain that can overcome that noise. I use it to an advantage to break a pitcher's rhythm up.
Pulled to the right side. Olerud goes to second for 1, and that's all they get as Grace beats the throw to first.
Nice scoop by Rick Reed there, like an old pro at first base. I always appreciate that.
Left fielder Henry Rodriguez.
That's a tough play for a pitcher, having to cover. I always tried to have a 3-6-3 double play. Take him out of the play. He's running, and the shortstop has to throw to a moving target. And this is a nice scoop. Nice play. If you can keep the pitcher out of the play at all costs, you're better off.
So Rick Reed right now with 2 men down will take on Henry Rodriguez, who hit 26 home runs last year, 36 the year before. Down low to Rodriguez, 1-0. Pete mentioned home run hitters in the lineup. They picked up Henry Rodriguez to complement Sammy Sosa, but both strike out a lot.
Both strike out a lot. Plus, you got two power hitters. One's a right-hand hitter, and one's a left-hand hitter. That's a plus. It's like Mays and McCovey.
They're trying to rest Rodriguez against left-handed pitching. 1-0 pitch. He pulls it to the right side. Easy play for Baerga. And that'll do it for the Cubs here in the top of the 4th. They strand a runner. They fail to score. We played 3.5 here at Shea, and it's 2-0 the Mets.
I've been vending Coors Light for a long time. It's who I am. At home, it's, hey, beer man, pass the peas. When the mail comes, it says, hey, beer man, you may have won $10 million. Being the beer man's a wonderful thing. People know cross-brewed refreshment. They're always happy to see me, and I'm recognized wherever I go.
Hey, beer man.
Hey, bobbin head doll man. Coors Light! Coors Light!
At Nobody Beats the Whiz, the sound of spring brakes are more price breaks. Sony's 8mm camcorder with color viewfinder breaks the $500 price barrier. Nobody Beats the Whiz gives you another lucky break. Minolta's Sightseer 35 to 70mm zoom camera shatters the $100 barrier. And Sanyo's Hi-Fi VCR is just $147.77. Right now, spring breaks mean price breaks at Nobody Beats the Whiz.
At Chase, your company is in good company, like Gourmet Garage.